Good morning everyone. Tara kapwa ko Filipino, magbasa na tayo ng ating sariling history book. History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo and Guerrero. Today is 5 March 2023. History of the Filipino People, Part 6, The Third Republic. Topic number 24, Post-War Problems and the Republic. Nandito na tayo sa paragraph Reorganization of the Government. Basa. Reorganization of the government. As the raging fires of Manila and the provinces subsided in the wake of the Japanese defeat in the field, President Osmeña reorganized the government to make it responsive to the imperative needs of the nation. On March 7, 1945, he signed an executive order providing for the restoration of the executive departments of the government as they existed before the war. The order was, however, dated February 27. A new feature of the organization was the creation of the Department of Information as part of the Department of Public Instruction. On March 8, Osmeña swore in the new members of the cabinet. In a speech following the oath-taking, Osmeña outlined the principles his government would follow. He said, "We hereby affirm our faith in and adherence to the principles of freedom and democracy. We shall re-establish in our country a social and political system in which government officials and employees are not the masters of the people but their servants. We stand for the individual liberties guaranteed by our Constitution, for the right of every man and woman to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We reject the theory of the existence of chosen or superior races. We reaffirm our faith in the principle of Philippine-American collaboration. We reiterate our adherence to the Atlantic Charter signed by the United Nations, of which we are a member. We stand, matagal na pala tayong member ng United Nations. We stand for a new world free from want and fear." Kasi panahon pa to ni Osmeña, guys, na tayo, member na tayo ng United Nations. Ulit, we reiterate our adherence to the Atlantic Charter signed by the United Nations, of which we are a member. We stand for a new world free from want and fear, provided with greater safeguards for lasting peace. We are ready to take part in close association with the United States in the organization and preservation of the peace of the world. The Congress Convened. Most of the important affairs of the government should have been handled by the Filipino officials, but MacArthur, a man of action and of a military temper, actually made the important decisions for President Osmeña. The latter, unassuming and cold under fire, did not want to convoke Congress on the ground that it might fall into the hands of collaborators whom the American government suspected of treason. MacArthur, however, believed that Osmeña was too slow and wanted Congress immediately convoked, for the policy of the American government was to restore constitutional government in the Philippines as soon as law and order had been established. On June 9, Osmeña called a special session of Congress. Manuel A. Rojas, whose ambition was to be president of the Philippines, immediately spoke for the so-called collaborationists by declaring that all men who were employed during the Japanese occupation were actually loyal to the Commonwealth government. It was Rojas' way of winning to his side the powerful members of the Nacionalista Party who worked willingly or unwillingly for the enemy. MacArthur, it seemed obvious, was behind Rojas drive for the presidency, for he considered Rojas the man of the hour, the strong man who could save the Philippines in a critical period. Osmeña, who was faced with the difficult problem of rehabilitation and reconstruction, not to say the problem of collaboration, wanted peace within his Nacionalista party. Consequently, he offered Rojas, elected senator immediately before the war, to go to Washington as Philippine resident commissioner. Rojas, however, turned down the offer, for he had in mind the presidency of the Philippines. 2 days later, on May 26, Rojas instructed his men to launch his candidacy. In the face of such political rebellion, Osmeña declared that he would step aside to give way to Rojas if the latter wanted to run for the presidency. The way was now paved for the ascendancy of Rojas. MacArthur, who believed that it was impossible to start things without calling the Philippine Congress to a session, exerted pressure on Osmeña. In July, the President called the Congress to a regular session. One of the first things the Congress did was to reward its members with 3 years back pay corresponding to the 3 years of enemy occupation. The government, ang laki niyan, yung back pay na 3 years. The government employees, envying the legislators' good luck, in turn demanded for 3 years back pay. They held a demonstration at Malacanang to compel Osmeña to promise them back pay, but the president, more realistic and honest, promised nothing, saying that there was no money with which to pay the government employees. Rojas, however, his eyes cocked to the presidency, promised that if elected he would recommend the passage of a back pay law. The law, approved in 1948, promised to give 3 years back pay to all pre-war government employees after the end of a 10-year period, that is, in 1958. The collaboration issue. Osmeña faced the problem of collaboration. Dito na tayo sa paragraph, the collaboration issue. The collaboration issue. Osmeña faced the problem of collaboration with an open mind, but the line of conduct, ulitin ko nga guys, the collaboration issue. Osmeña faced the problem of collaboration with an open mind, but the line of conduct he was to follow with regard to the question was laid down for him by President Roosevelt when on June 29, 1944, the latter stated that those who collaborated with the enemy should be removed from authority and influence over the political and economic life of the country. Consequently, when Congress was convened to a special session on August 14, at least 2 bills were presented providing for the creation of a court to try the so-called collaborators. Osmeña, however, realizing that the bills were unsatisfactory, presented an administration measure providing for a court whose judges were not identified with the so-called collaborators. The Rojas faction in Congress maneuvered to have the Osmeña bill toned down. There were heated discussion on the bill. On September 11, American Secretary of the Interior Harold Ickes reminded Osmeña in a cablegram of the late President Roosevelt's policy regarding collaboration in his statement of June 29, 1944. There was a hint of withdrawal of American aid when he said that, "I would call attention of your government to the probable reluctance with which funds may be appropriated for relief, rehabilitation, and support of the Commonwealth government if it becomes generally believed that the government had failed diligently and firmly to convict and punish those guilty of collaboration." It was clear that the American government wanted Osmeña to deal with the collaborationists firmly. It was thus that the Osmeña bill, with some modifications, was passed. In September 1945, the American agency, the Counterintelligence Corps, CIC, handed over the Commonwealth government all the detained political prisoners. Some of them big names in the Philippine political scene before the war were set free upon the suggestion of both Osmeña and Rojas. Meanwhile, the People's Court, which handled all cases of collaboration, tried the various cases brought before it. Some were found guilty and imprisoned, but the others were not. As the facts of collaboration came to light, the people who were at first swayed by passion and their judgment of the issue now slowly realized that the collaboration of many of the officials in the Laurel government was intended to soften the impact of the Japanese military administration. With the publication of Senator Claro M. Recto's siguro to ancestors to ni Senator Ralph Recto ngayon. Ayun nakalagay, with the publication of Senator Claro M. Recto's brilliant book, 3 Years of Enemy Occupation in 1946. Alam nyo guys, napapansin natin yung mga nakaupo ngayon sa government natin, yung mga ninuno nila, mga naglingkod din sa government. No? Pansin ko lang. With the publication of Senator Claro M. Recto's brilliant book, 3 Years of Enemy Occupation in 1946, the cause of those who wanted all collaborators jailed was weakened. When Rojas won the presidency in 1946, he solved the collaboration issue by proclaiming amnesty to all political prisoners. He had no alternative, for he was himself a collaborator. He had no alternative, for he was himself a collaborator, having been active in Laurel's government. Senator Recto refused to be amnestied, believing in the justice of his cause. He fought his legal battles with the People's Court and won an acquittal. Ang galing. Bukas na itong American Financial Aid. Bye everyone. God bless.